Hunter x Hunter is a show that I've been feeling the drive to make a video about for a long time now. Lately, I have an almost obsessive level of interest in this show, and not on purpose. I've rewatched the 2011 anime probably 4 times in the last year, and I'm currently working on getting through the manga in its entirety. Every time I rewatch this show or read the manga, there are more details I pick up, more details about the world, the characters, and the superb writing of this story. So I've always wanted to gush about this story, but frankly, I don't have a lot of people in my personal life in which I can gush about this series with. This series is just so immensely dense with subtext, detail, philosophy, and much more. Although there are many analysis videos on YouTube of this series already, I still feel like I have a lot to say about this show that has not been said already. But what format do I do this in? I've always been a fan of long-form analysis videos, but I've never attempted to make one myself. The idea of doing this seems daunting to say the least. And then I realized, why don't I just watch the entire 2011 series and do analysis episode by episode? So that's what I'll be doing in this series of Hunter x Hunter analysis videos. We'll be exploring every episode of Hunter x Hunter, analyzing every part of the episode and story that I can deem worthy of analysis, and relating it to the series as a whole. This video series is intended for people who are familiar with the Hunter x Hunter stories, so we'll have spoilers. That said, I will also try not to reveal key details before they are revealed in the story if you end up watching these videos along with your own first time watch. And with that said, let's begin the show with the first episode. So, what is Hunter x Hunter? Who made it? When did it come out? What is it about? Well, I think we need to start there. Hunter x Hunter is originally a shonen manga written by Yoshihiro Togashi, first released in 1998 and is still ongoing, although as of writing this video it has been on hiatus for over 3 years now. This gives Hunter x Hunter the nickname in the community of hiatus, unfortunately. Eventually the manga had much of it adapted into an anime by Studio Madhouse in 2011. There is another anime that covers less of the manga, which was released in 1999, but for the sake of this analysis, we'll be only covering the 2011 show, as well as the manga for the sake of comparison. So with that out of the way, we have the next question. What is the story that the series is trying to tell? Is it a story about 2 friends, Gon and Killua, the trials and challenges that they face, the growth and changes that they undergo, how they affect each other, and how they learn to be interdependent? Or maybe it's a story about a society not much unlike our own, except for a few differences. For one, the existence of a special energy called Nen, and how to use said energy to do magnificent and powerful feats. And another, the existence of the unknown, especially in regards to magical beasts. Or is it about the lives of various unique individuals, and how they all affect each other, about how you do not exist in a vacuum, about how everything that happens around you, whether you like it or not, will affect you in unpredictable ways. About how your actions in this world are solely your responsibility. About the beauty and horrors that come from the various interactions in this world. Or is it simply about philosophies and spirituality? About facing the unknown? About learning and realizing your true self? Realizing what is in your soul? A story about becoming self-actualized. These are all grand themes and ideas that will be explored in the story. But in the beginning, we start with one idea. Hunters, seekers of the magnificent and the unknown, along with the world that necessitates them, full of wonder, treasures, deadly dangers, and excitement. And then, there's one kid who wants to be a hunter. Gon Freaks. The vibe in the beginning of the show is an almost Saturday morning cartoon feeling. It's very light and full of adventure on the horizon. Although, as previous viewers know, this vibe becomes challenged more and more the further we delve into the series. We are first introduced to an establishing idea. A kid fishing for something. There are villagers talking about Gon trying to get this master of the swamp, and how it would be impossible for a kid like him to accomplish this task. They compare him already to his father, who at his age caught this fish. We get the sense that Gon's father is revered as a legend of sorts, like a one-of-a-kind. This is then emphasized by the moment we see Gon indeed catching this fish, revealing that Gon seems to be just as capable as a legend that his father is. It can be said for the beginning of a shonen series, the catching of a humongous fish by a young boy who appears to be almost supernaturally strong is very reminiscent of Dragon Ball, which in itself is an extremely influential shonen manga written by Akira Toriyama. Togashi has gone on record to state his love and appreciation for Dragon Ball and Toriyama as a creator, so the influence is palpable, and I would dare say that Togashi is not alone in his homages to Dragon Ball in shonen works. That said, for those familiar with the shonen genre, this serves to evoke the feelings of nostalgia and familiarity. We know that this kid has abilities far beyond a normal person already, and that we are likely going to be going on a grand adventure. For those less familiar with shonen, it serves the same purpose that it served in Dragon Ball, that being, holy shit, this kid's amazingly strong, that's crazy. Moving on, we are now presented with the development of Gon's aunt Mito needing to fulfill her promise of allowing Gon to take part in the hunter exam after catching this fish. Through the animation, we can see how reticent she is on this, how tense and worried for Gon she is on the prospect of him taking the hunter exam like his father before him. Delving deeper into the family dynamic, I always wonder about the grandmother versus Mito's attitude towards Gon's desire to be a hunter. The grandmother seems to be more accepting of Gon's desire to be a hunter. I presume this may be because the grandmother already had to deal with Gon's father, leaving to be a hunter in his past while raising him, and thus probably has more confidence in Gon being able to take care of himself, and the knowledge that trying to stop him would be futile.
I don't have to tell you that his eyes sparkle the same way as his father's. It won't be long now before we have to let him go.
Mito has yet to learn this lesson though, which is likely why she's so resistant to Gon becoming a hunter. As an aside, some important things to note in regards to the differences between the manga and the show. The manga emphasizes a few different things in this intro sequence. For one, in the manga we are introduced to the character of Kite in the beginning section. Kite rescues a younger Gon from an attack by a wild animal. Through this encounter, the two get to know each other briefly. Kite tells Gon about hunters and about his father being a hunter. We learn that Mito was actually trying to shelter Gon from the idea of being a hunter, but through this encounter with Kite, the genie is out of the bottle, beginning Gon's pursuit to become a hunter in order to learn more about his father. Now, the interaction between Gon and Kite in this section becomes very important much later in the series, but the anime only references it at the time that it becomes relevant. I can understand why they didn't add this section at the beginning of the anime. It would have been a big diversion in regards of pacing, and the payoff doesn't come until much later. That said, if you are a manga reader, you probably have a little bit more emotional weight and impact when Kite comes into the story later. Another small thing to note in the difference between the manga and the show, at least in this episode, is that Aunt Mito specifically tells Gon that she lied to him, stating that Jean did not abandon Gon, but that Mito made Jean give up Gon to her. Presumably, we think this is because she knew Jean's lifestyle was wholly unsuited to raise a child in. Again, an interesting small difference that the anime doesn't address, but I think it's one that paints Jean in a slightly different light than what we see him in the anime. But back to the show, the Pinky Promise. A sequence that seems to have little consequence. And in the grand scheme of things, this specific Pinky Promise doesn't really have any direct reverberations, but the idea of this promise, to come home safely, will be touched on much later in the series. Also, Gon uses this very same type of promise later in the series, and we see the consequences when Gon is unable to keep a promise like this. Now, on the ship transporting the hunter applicants, we get a few things presented to us, one being the amount of hard-ass looking passengers, ready to take the exam. The other being the introduction of Kurapika and Leorio, two other important characters in this story. The scene of Gon giving the apple back to the sailor who was being harassed serves a simple function, showing that Gon is a kind of caring individual. In the same scene, we are introduced to Gon's ability to understand nature and weather through his intuition, sight, and smell. This lets us know that Gon is almost akin to a wild child, so in tune with nature that his ability dwarfs even the sailors who have been at sea most of their lives. As they go through the storm in this ship, we get to learn that the hard-ass applicants we saw earlier are in fact rather pathetic when it comes to keeping their constitution in this storm. But despite this, Gon continues to showcase his caring and kind attitude, helping the sick passengers with herbs and water. Meanwhile, the ones who we learn to be Kurapika and Leorio seem unaffected by the storm as well. This shows us instantly that these two are important and significant individuals in this series, whom we can pay special attention to, just like Gon. It's at this time that we learn the true extent of the hunter exam. The exam starts even when the participants are being transported to the exam spot. This makes sense, as thousands upon thousands of participants apply every year, and as we learn, being a hunter comes with numerous perks, making it an extremely desirable title to hold. Also, I just want to comment on how funny I think it is that the captain puts a cigarette in his pipe in order to smoke it, instead of just smoking the cigarette on its own. Now, in the interaction between Kurapika and Leorio, it may be noted how guarded and reserved they both seem to be. First-time watchers may just think they're assholes, and rewatchers may wonder how they go from this to the friendly companions that they are later. I would say that this behavior revolves around the nature of the hunter exam as a whole. These are two individuals who came to this ship on their own as rookies to the hunter exam, which is known to be beyond extreme level and difficulty. There is a mentality here that they may be on their own, as they are competing with all participants. Due to this, them being guarded, as individuals who likely studied the nature of the exam much more than Gon did, makes perfect sense. It can also be noted that both Leorio and Kurapika each have quite an ego, and as we learn in the future, both are taking the exam for highly personal and emotional reasons. Thus, them resolving to duke out their differences in fighting seems to be the natural course. Although through this, we do still learn of Kurapika and Leorio's kind nature, as what stops them from fighting each other is the emergency of needing to help a sailor, and Gon, by extension, from falling overboard. Now, Gon's intuition is further emphasized in this encounter as well. First of all, he has the understanding that Kurapika and Leorio have some emotional differences that they need to work out, and by showing each other their anger by fighting, they have a chance of coming to an understanding. Gon's jumping to rescue the sailor may seem like the case of main character acts recklessly before thinking to rescue someone, putting themselves in as much danger. Now, I would argue that this scene serves the purpose of revealing the unspoken and perhaps unconscious intuition that Gon holds. He could sense the kind-heartedness of Kurapika and Leorio, and he knew that if he risked his life to jump off the ship to rescue the sailor, that the two would put aside their differences to catch him. He says, "You both caught me together," in sort of an assured tone. This finally serves as the bridge between the friendship of not only Kurapika and Leorio, but the trio as a whole. And finally, at the end of the episode, we learned that through their acts of kindness, selflessness, and natural abilities, they passed the initial test posed by the captain for this exam, and they are moving on to the next phase of the pre-exam. And so with that, this concludes the first episode of Hunter x Hunter, as well as the intro to my in-depth analysis of this series. Future videos may end up covering more than one episode at a time, but I wanted to kick this off with something simple. I want to thank all of you who stuck around and watched this entire video. It really means the world to me to be able to share my love and appreciation for this series, and I really hope to see you all continue to watch as I release more videos of this series. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. All of this serves to inspire me to create more of these. So until next time, happy hunting.